Hi guys, welcome back for episode number 44 of the weekly playback. So I did get to play some new games, so I'm excited to talk about them. So I guess we can just get into the new games that I played. So the first one is going to be the Transcontinental. Now I do predict that this part of the video might be a bit long, but if you haven't played this game yet, I do think you might appreciate an overview because I felt the rules were kind of hard to understand. But first, let's go over the basic information. So this is a 2022 game. It is for 1 to 4 players, designed and illustrated by Glenn Dresser, and the publisher is Wheelhouse Games. Now this is a worker placement train game, not trail, train. And it's also like an auction bidding kind of game, but, well, that's what it says, but oh yeah, there was. Duh, it was like a main part of the game. I don't know why. I just totally forgot about that. Okay, but yes, okay. So this game, first of all, the rule book I felt was just really hard to understand. So, you know, if there are any publishers watching, I feel like, you know, if you want someone else to maybe take a look at your rule book and give you suggestions on how to make it more user-friendly, I could definitely think of some ways to make this user-friendly. And so if you're looking for a rule book editor, you know, I'd be interested. So anyway, so this rule book was really hard to understand. So even after reading it, me and my friend, we decided to watch Rado's playthrough video just to try to make sure that we understood some things correctly. And once we figured that yes, we get it now, we'll play the game. So we did. So in this game, you're going to have 2 boards. So you're going to have this board, and on the bottom and top of this board, there are going to be these tiles. So, and there is going to be like a certain way to put them down. So, you know, the rule book will indicate to you how you place these tiles. There's different areas of the board. So you can see that they're kind of like split up by season. You know, I don't know if it was meant to be seasonal, but that's what it looks like to me. So like you have like, you know, like the spring over here, I think, and then like fall, and like winter and summer, or, you know, I could be getting these seasons completely wrong, but they look seasonal. I don't know. Okay, so yeah, so you're going to have different areas of the board, and the area to the far right is going to be called the maritime area, where you will be able to get resources. So this is a worker placement game. So each player is going to have a bag with certain items in them. And within that bag, you will have these telegram markers. So in a 2-player game, you will have, let me just pull everything out. You're going to have 3 big telegram markers and 2 small telegram markers. And you have the small ones because you may, if you go to a certain worker placement spot, be able to then get a smaller one to place out as a worker as well. You're going to have your own buildings, which you will be placing out onto those tiles. And you have these cubes which will represent your resources when you place them onto the resource cargo areas of a train. And then of course you have just your score markers and stuff, and turn order markers. So on top of this one and all the tiles, so again, you're going to have tiles on the top and on the bottom, and, you know, of the different locations you can go to. And again, they're of different seasons, like, you know, of different areas. So here's an example of another one. And all of these tiles can be upgraded. So once someone has paid all the resources, or multiple people, you would flip it over and you would get another ability, and I'll get more into that in a minute. And then on top of that, you're going to have this board. So on this board, I'm going to be throwing up some pictures which will make it easier to understand. On this board, on the bottom part, you have the line. You are going to have a couple tiles to start your train with, which will include some coal resource, you know, areas. So let me just pull out some of these. And I will say one thing. So when I was setting up the game, you know, kind of like an idiot, I was like, oh no, mine is missing some components. So I was like, I have everything except for like wood and except for like the tourists. And then I realized that you can flip these over, and you'll see the other resources that you need on the back of these. So the iron flips over to show you wood, and and then this one, the coal can flip over, and you'll see grain on the other side. And the navies, as they call them in the rule book, navigators, can be flipped over, and you will get the tourists. So, you know, there are multiples of each tiles, but at first when I was setting up, I was really convinced that I got a defective copy and I was missing a bunch of tiles because, you know, I was like, crap, I have no wood, I have no this. But then my friend was like, oh, what if we just flip it over? Is there something on the backside? And lo and behold, there was stuff on the backside. So yeah, so definitely, you know, pay attention to that. So you aren't missing anything, I'm sure, if you think you are. So yeah, so you're going to have a starting train. And let me see if I can find the start of the train. So here's going to be the start of the train. You are going to start with this, as well as an iron and a navy section. And I think those are the only sections you start out with, if I remember correctly. Yes, I believe so. So iron, navy, and coal. And so you're going to have that, like, oh, again, you'll see a picture. And those are going to be your spots where you can put cubes to get resources. So if you are in a location of the board where you're able to claim resources on your turn, you will put down cubes in the location to indicate how many of those resources you have. And there are ways to pull out more of these. So like, let's suppose you run out and you still need to place more cubes. There's going to be a stack of these tiles up on top over here. So you will take the appropriate tile and then put it in the yard and then put your cubes on that. And how you get those parts of the train from the yard to the line, I will get to in a bit. So you are going to have that. Now each person will have a player screen, and you're also going to have a bidding board. So a player screen will basically outline all the different actions that are available for you. And then each person is going to have a bidding board, which will be hidden behind your screen. So how it works basically, oh, and for setup, you are also going to have a bunch of these tiles. And I was thinking to myself, something didn't make sense to me. Like the game comes with these, and I was like, why does it come with these? Like, I don't know what you're supposed to do with them, because you actually get these are called wilderness tiles, and you actually have wilderness tiles to put out on the board, and they are going to be put out on this board, covering up parts of this, because this is where you will be placing workers to, you know, activate the locations of these tiles. And you can't place a worker somewhere where there's a wilderness tile, and those will get removed. So there's these tiles that are important, which will trigger the end game called Last Spike. And we are given 2 of them, and one of them has like a cutout in it. And for the life of me, I could not understand why there's a cutout in this. And then just today it clicked to me that these, which I was wondering what the hell they were for, you can actually stick into here so that it like stands up from the board, and you will know exactly where Last Spike is, so you don't have to like kind of stand up and peer over. So yeah, so it can go like that. So now I know what those are for. So now I know why we have 2 Last Spike tiles, and then there was one for the railhead, which I'm sure is somewhere here. Gosh, this is going to be such a pain to clean up. Oh, here's the railhead one, I think. Yeah. But yeah, it's going to be such a pain to clean up. So yeah, so if you're wondering why that is like that, now I know. Okay, so that would have been nice to have figured out while I was playing the game. So, okay. So on your turn, again, I'll have some pictures up. You are going to have this area, and a lot of it in the beginning of the game is going to be covered up with this is upside down, is going to be covered up with the wilderness tiles. So you can only place a worker where there are no wilderness tiles and where someone else doesn't already have a worker. So, you know, starting with the first player, you're going to take turns placing out your 3 whatever these things were called, telegrams. So I would place one, then the other player would place one, then I would place one again, and so on. When you place a worker on a spot, it's always going to be adjacent to 2 different tiles, and you can take the actions from both. So let's see, so you can decide which action you want to take. So let me just show you an example. So I don't remember which, I'm trying to get you some different ones here to show you. Okay, here's one. So like, let's suppose you were adjacent to both of these. You can always do the development action. Development means that, so development will always be the action on top, and that means you will take resources from the trains and add them to the location that you're currently at to try to develop them. So in this case, you would need iron, no, sorry, that's wood, and you would need iron. So you need 3 wood and an iron. If you take resources from a certain location and you are on the rightmost of that cargo part of that train part, you can then, if there's someone else who has iron behind you, they can elect to contribute iron to the location that you're developing in. So an item can be completed right away. So like, for example, if I didn't have enough iron, let's suppose something needed 3 iron and I had 2, and then someone else behind me had 2 as well. I could submit 2, and then they could choose whether or not they want to submit 1 since their iron is behind me, and then we could develop it if we've met all of the requirements of the tile, and then we would flip it over. So if you are in a game where, you know, if it's a 2-player game and someone else helped you to develop the item, you would get the points that are listed there, and then the other player would get 2 points. In a multiplayer game, I believe, in a 3 or 4-player game, I believe it's the 2 people who contributed the most. So if a third person contributed and, you know, they didn't have the first or second most, then they wouldn't get anything. Then whoever developed it, whoever contributed the most, will of course get to flip it over and place their building on it. So now in a future turn, if they go there, they will have an action that is specific to them that only they can use, which is indicated by that building icon. However, if another player goes there, they can always use the bottom action. So on each tile, you will always have 2 actions available, which is the develop action and then the random one on the bottom. And in this case, this one is, let me just look at the player guide because I don't remember what that one is. I think it's portage, but I could be wrong. Yeah, that one's portage. So in portage, you can take 1 of your resource cubes from either the line or the yard to an incomplete development of any kind. So that's a good one. Another one that I just was holding up was this one. This one will allow you to place an extra worker. So the way this works is really interesting. So you're going to have westbound and then eastbound. So westbound, you are going to take turns placing out your workers. You can elect not to place all of your workers at this time if you don't want to. And then you're going to resolve them once you hit the west end of the trail. Then you're going to have an auction bidding phase, and that's when you're trying to get rid of all of these railheads. So you're going to look at how many resources you need, not railheads, pardon me, these wilderness tiles. You're going to look at, just for an example, they're going to be in a certain numerical order. You're going to look at how many resources are needed in total to eliminate these so that the train can move farther and farther, and you will be able to put out your workers in farther and farther spaces. So that's when you secretly bid resources behind your player screen, and then one at a time you're going to count up, you know, how many resources you guys all bid together in total, and then starting with the player who bid the most resources, they will get to decide which of the tiles for the numbers that they've met they want to remove. And then when you remove these tiles, some of them will give you a special ability in addition to points. Like, so for example, this one will give you one of these icons, so you can place your building on, there's going to be a front part of the track where that symbol is present, or I think that one's in the back, so you can place buildings there, because in addition to, you know, just being a worker placement game, it's also kind of like a set collection game. So you're also going to have these secret objective cards that you'll want to try to fulfill. So like, for example, here's one. In order to fulfill this, you will need 2 of these, 1 of this, and in addition to that, if you get an additional one of those symbols, you can get an additional 4 points. So each person is going to have 2 objective cards in the beginning of the game that they are trying to complete, and you'll be able to collect more of them throughout the game if you want. Sorry, there are these other cards that are going to be placed in the different areas as well. I guess I can just show those to you. So you're going to have these different, I don't remember what they're called, but different people, and you can use their special abilities throughout the game. So you will start the game with 1, I believe, if it's your first time playing. I believe if you're experienced, then I believe you don't get to start with 1. Okay, so where was I? So yeah, so going west, you're going to, you know, bid, you're going to do all your actions, then you're going to bid for removing these tiles, and then you'll take the tile and get the points immediately, and you'll keep them in front of you, I guess. You know, I personally think it's a good idea to keep them in front of you in case you messed something up, because when I played, we did mess up. Like, so we didn't know that that meant you actually place your building on that one tile. We thought that you just keep it in front of you. So it was helpful to know how many buildings we should have put out, because in the end game, we needed to know that. Then after you bid and you've removed all of the wilderness tiles that you're able to, which will now open up more spots for you. Then you go eastbound. So again, if anyone has workers that they did not place and they want to place going eastbound now, they can do that. And in addition, if you had placed workers because you were allowed to place an extra worker from an action you had taken before, you can now do that as well. I want to go over the resource part. So in the beginning of the trail is the Maritimes, and that is where you can get resources. Now when the train, oh, by the way, it comes with a metal train, so you can like move this metal train, well, at least the deluxe version does. You can move this like metal train along to the location that you're currently resolving, so it's helpful to see that. So in the beginning of the trail, God, there's such a mess here now. It's gonna be a pain to put back. Where is that board? Oh, here it is. You are going to have your resources. So you're going to see numbers here, 1, 2, 3, and the game starts with the resource markers pointing to 2. If someone has taken the resources from there and the train is moving along, and when it comes to you, you collect resources, you will of course put the cubes on the associated cargo part of the train, on the line, which I've shown you before, or the yard, and then it would go down to 1. However, if no one was in that spot, there was no telegram marker in that spot, and you pass over it, you would increase the resource by 1. So if someone is able to get it on the way back, they would then be able to get like 3 resources. If you were at 3 and you ended up getting those resources, it would drop not to 2, but all the way down to 1. So it's, you know, timing your resources is pretty important in this game, especially when you know that you have to bid on certain things. There are going to be, in every round, there's going to be 1 resource that is worth double the value. So like if you have 1 cube of that resource, it would actually be worth 2 when it comes to bidding. So the rule book will explain that. I'm not going to go into detail about that. It's going to be pretty self-explanatory how that works. The part about getting your cargo, the parts of the train from the yard into the line, that's when your your train part with the coal in it is all filled up. I don't remember what that part is called. There's a term for it. So when this is all filled up, after the train has come all the way back, so after going eastbound and it reaches the end of the line, you're going to see if this is filled up, and then the player will get to remove their cubes, and they will get to select which part of the train from in the yard they want to add to the regular train. When you're adding parts to the train, you always have to keep like with like. So if it's iron, it's going to go behind an iron cart. If it's, you know, part of the train. If it's like people, it's going to go behind another people part of that kind in the train. You don't have, so because you have to keep them in order. So whenever you take resources, you always push the cubes down, because as I discussed earlier, it makes a difference when you're you know, completing developments, which cubes you're taking, because you know, if there's people's cubes behind you, they can have an opportunity to also go in on a development with you. So the order of the cubes is important. So yeah, so that's the way at the end of each round you're going to be able to determine whether you can take another part of the train and bring it down from the yard into the line. I don't remember what that term was called right now, but I guess I can look it up in the rule book very quickly. So triggering, no. Oh, and those people cards are called ally cards. They're called allies now, I remember, because it's in the rule book. Okay, so what is that part thing called? Resupply. Yes, you trigger a resupply. So the engine tender, it's called engine tender. If the engine tender is full, that triggers the resupply action. If it's not full, then you don't do that part. And yeah, you get to choose which type of car, that's what they're called, cars, you want to add to the train from the yard. And then you get points for that as well. So when you trigger a resupply, whoever had the most coal will get to remove all of their coal from the line, and then that player receives 2 victory points, and then you will get an additional victory point for every resource that's added to the line from the yard. So from whichever car you're moving from the yard to the line, if there's resources in that, you'll get additional victory points for that as well. So yeah, so that's called resupply. So that is really the gist of the game. I know it seems like a lot, and it feels like a lot when you're learning it, especially when, you know, we were looking at the rule book, we thought it was a bit difficult to understand, but then watching Rado's video and just seeing it kind of in action helped. So that definitely helped. It's got amazing components. There is variability because the way well, I mean, not a whole lot of variability. You will get to like remove a certain tile from each color when you're setting up, so it's not going to make the game like insanely variable, because it's not like you can completely shuffle them around. So you can't like completely shuffle them around, because you can't have like, you know, where's that board? You cannot where did I put that board? You cannot like have like red tiles towards the back. You are always going to have the tiles in the same region as their color. So green are always going to be here, yellow is always going to be here, and then like orange and red. So you're, you know, there's not going to be a whole ton of variability, and they are always going to be in numerical order because these tiles have numbers on them. So after you remove a certain tile, oh sorry, not these ones. Oh, these ones will be variable. I'm sorry, I'm getting the wilderness tiles confused. So those will be variable within their own regions though, but the wilderness tiles will not be variable, because although you're going to remove them, you're going to be putting them in numerical order once you've removed certain tiles based on the number, the tiny number in the corner. And of course that makes sense, because you know the victory points are going to get higher and higher as you get further along the wilderness track. If you did not remove enough wilderness tiles, because you have to remove, I believe, in each round 2, then the last spike is going to get closer. That will jump ahead a spot, and that is what triggers game end. So once the last spiked tile has, you know, been reached or whatever, then you get like one more round or something like that. So yeah, so I wish I had known. It would have been really good to have these in there when I was playing the game to see it more properly. But now you know that you can make it like this. But it does come without those as well. So this, you know, if you don't want to stick those things in. So I think that's it. Yeah, the artwork is really nice. Again, I'll just show you like an example of a card. So yeah, so these ally cards will be able to give you special abilities, and if you don't use them, you can use them for their icon at the end to get your set collection points for your objectives that you were trying to meet. So yeah, so there we go. So that is the Transcontinental. So now I'm just going to take time to put everything back. So yeah, so we really liked it. I thought it was a good game. I definitely want to play at a higher player count. I can see how it would be more fun at a higher player count, because you would have more competition for the various worker spots, for sure. And someone already commented that it is more fun at a higher player count because they played it both at 2 and I believe 4 players. So yeah, but it is a good train game. I'm not sure if I know of any other train worker placement games. Do you? Yeah, I'm not sure I do. But yes, and the insert is really nice. So yeah, I think I explained everything. I'm trying to think and see if I missed anything. I don't think I did. Yeah, I think that's about it. You know, we can go over some of the actions actually. So, you know, the various actions that you'll see on the tile, there's produce, where you can get resources. There's acquire, where you can load one of any resource. There's trade, where you can change some resources you have, 2 of one kind, up to 2 of one kind, to up to 2 of another, but that can only be done in the line, not in the yard. There's port supply, so you can load the indicated number of resources, then reduce the supply to 1. So then there's also portage and development, which we talked about. Yeah, I believe those are all of the resources, and then everything is listed on your player aid. There is a lot of information, but once you learn the gist of the game, it's really not that hard to understand, and it goes pretty quickly once you get going. Because if you're not able to remove a lot of these wilderness tiles, the last spike is going to be moving down on its own then, and that will help to trigger the end of the game so that it doesn't last forever. Because if you know, the reason for that I think is because if you're not able to get all the resources you need to bid on these wilderness tiles, then the game could potentially just go on for a very long time. And at the end of the wilderness, there is going to be these really high numbered wilderness tiles. So at the end of the game, you may want to try to, you know, save your points, your resources, if you can, to get one of the high scoring ones. So I managed to get this one in the end, which required 7 resources in order to win that. So again, when you're bidding, you put cubes here. So when you're bidding behind your screen, you not the cubes from the actual train, but some that you have in your supply to indicate how many resources you're bidding of a certain kind. So yeah, it is a really good game. I really like it. And I am glad I backed it. So yeah. So that is the Transcontinental, and now you can just bear with me while I just quickly try to put this away. So yeah. Alrighty, the next game, well, that I will talk about. Okay, sorry, I'm almost done. Okay, let me just quickly put this away. Oh, and here are the markers which will indicate what the resource values are at, and the yellow one is the one that will be moving around to indicate which resource in that round is going to be doubled in value. And again, that will change throughout the game. I don't know if it's only the deluxe version that comes with these nice cloth bags, but they're pretty nice too, to hold all the different player resources. So yeah. And it has a solo mode. I haven't played the solo mode, but I've seen people asking a lot of questions about it on BGG. I believe it's called the Syndicate, and I've seen people asking questions about that. So yeah, almost done, guys, almost done. So this is the problem when you don't edit videos. You just have to do everything on camera. Well, as I was babbling on and on trying to pack up the Transcontinental, I ended up getting a phone call anyway, which cut me off. So, yeah, so I guess that worked out. Okay, so the next game I will talk about is Citrus. Now, Citrus is an older game. This came out in 2013. It is designed by Jeffrey D. Allers, and the artist is Clemens Franz and Scott Hartman. Clemens Franz? I thought he was a designer. Maybe I'm confusing his name with someone else. And the publisher is TMG. And so this is obviously out of print because that publisher went out of business. And this is for, I don't remember if I mentioned it, for 2 to 5 players. So this is a territory building, like tile placement game. So in Citrus, so I played a 5-player game of this, which is really nice. So you're going to have one big board, and you can decide, which side of the board you want to play, whether you want to play a longer game or a shorter game. Oh no! Oh no! See that? I'm gonna have to tape that. That was not a good idea. Well, you get the gist. Now I'll just have to super glue that or something, but yeah, you get the gist of what the board looks like. We'll be careful about doing that in the future. Okay, so here is going to be a board at top, and I'll post a picture, but you're going to have the different plantation tiles on them, and there are, I believe, a couple of different kinds. So there's orange, and some of them have wells on them, which will be important for scoring. There's these pink ones. There's yellow for lemons. There's also green for lime, and then red, which I believe, I don't know what pink is supposed to be. So red, I believe, is supposed to be blood orange, but then I can't remember what citrus fruit is pink. I don't know. Weird. So yeah, so there are a total of 5 different colors. Here are just some of the player colors. Of course, that was purple. Nice, fun player colors. If you're playing in low lighting, not that this might be a huge problem for people, because I don't even know if you'll be able to find this game if you want it, but a lot of the colors can be really hard to differentiate in like bad lighting situations, which we were having. Each player is going to have their own board, which will have their workers placed on them, and then you're also going to have a money tracker at the bottom. So basically on your turn, you are going to be able to either harvest or to plant, to construct, build. So you can take tiles from here. Basically, you can take any row of tiles, but it has to be all the tiles in the row. If you accidentally take more tiles than you can place or that you have money for, you will be penalized. The ones that you can't place then or pay for will have to be placed back, and then, because it's 1 coin per tile, and then you will lose 3 points for each tile that you have to put back on this board. So you have to be careful about that. The way the tiles are placed is really the important part of this game. So when you're building, you are going to be building around these finca tiles. So there are tiles like this, which have points indicated on them, and then when they end up getting scored, the person with the most territory region around them will get the higher number of points, and then the other person will get the lower number of points. If there's a tie for first place, both players will get, I believe, the higher number, and then no one gets to score the second number, if I remember correctly. So when you're placing tiles around a finca, you cannot have, when you're placing them, there's a lot of rules which are, hard to maybe grasp in the beginning, but once you start playing, it makes a lot of sense. So you cannot place tiles of different colors coming out of the same finca. So if I place a tile that is yellow to the north, I can then not place a tile that is yellow to the south or to the east of the west, or east or west of that tile. And someone else cannot place tiles of a color adjacent to someone else's region of that color. So like, let's suppose someone wanted to place a yellow tile somewhere. They can't come and place a yellow tile next to my yellow tiles or around this finca, because it would violate that first rule I just talked about. If I wanted to place an additional yellow tile at a later point, I could place it next to this or here, because it's not orthogonally adjacent to the finca. So I could place it here or even here, and you would probably want to place colored tiles next to colored tiles that you already own, because when it comes to scoring these finca tiles, you're going to count up all the tiles of a certain region in the ones that you own, your colors, which will be indicated by workers that are placed on them, to see who has the highest region score, number of tiles in a region around that finca tile to score the higher value of points. Sometimes you'll come across these special tiles that have special abilities on them, or special end of game scoring abilities. So you can get those. So like, yeah, you'll see these tiles, and if you end up covering them, you can use them immediately or save them for a future turn if you want to. Some of them are pretty useful. So like, one of them will allow you to place tiles on rocks, which typically you cannot do. So if you come across a rock, you cannot place a tile on it. So you'll see on the board where all the letters are, that's where you are going to have those, is that the fincas? Yeah, the fincas. So you place out a certain number of fincas, and then you're going to place out a certain number of these circles. And if the board, this board ever has 3 or fewer tiles on it, before the person puts down their tiles that they just collected, you can immediately place a new finca tile. Yeah, so you can start building from a new one if you want to. And really, that's the gist of it, I think. So when you have workers out, you're going to be placing your workers out. So, and then when you harvest, so scoring is different from harvesting. So when you score a tile, a finca tile, you of course count up the number of regions around it, who has the highest scoring regions around it, and then you score, you get the points, and then you flip this over to show that this finca tile has been scored. However, you don't take back your workers when it's been scored. You only take back your workers if you choose to harvest. So you can harvest an area that has not been scored yet, or you can harvest an area that has been scored. If you harvest an area that has not been scored yet, basically the region that is left behind, or even for a scored one, is now going to be a neutral region, which people may be able to take control of in certain ways by placing tiles strategically. So when you score, you are going to see how many, you're going to remove the workers of the regions you want to score, and then you're going to place them back here. And once you've placed them back here, that's when you'll get to see how many coins you get for placing them here. So like, let's suppose after you've collected all the workers of the regions you want to harvest, and let's suppose you have workers here, here, and here, then you're going to look to the number here to see how many coins you would get. So in this instance, you would get 6 coins to be added to your bank. And again, you need coins to buy tiles. So it becomes a bit of a balance between deciding when to build, when to take tiles from here and construct, or when to harvest, because obviously you need money in order to build more tiles. But yeah, and the game end will trigger once all of the tiles have been built. And you can see when that's going to happen, right? So you can try to plan strategically towards the end whether it's more beneficial for you to do one thing or another. It was a really good game. I actually really enjoyed it. I saw that someone online had posted that you know, they really enjoyed their first number, like, you know, first 5 plays of it or something, but then it got old pretty quickly. I don't know. It's not a game I guess I would play all the time, but I would play it once in a while and just keep my liking of it fresh, I guess. But yeah, and it has this orange bag for all of the plantation tiles. I think that was the gist of it, really. It's a pretty, you know, good and easy game once you learn it and how to place tiles, and you know whose tiles you can place, you know how you can't place certain tiles next to other people's colored tiles, and so on and so forth, to keep your regions separate. So even though you have a limited number of workers, it is, you know, possible to keep track of which region is yours, because you're only going to have 1 worker per colored region. It's not like you're going to put a worker on every single tile that you put out. That's not the case. But yeah, it's a good game and I liked it, so I'm glad I was able to get my hands on this copy. Yeah, so that is Citrus. So let's move on. But yeah, I can't believe I ripped my board. Oh, it's sad. Yeah, just a little bit here, I think. I will have to tape that. Oh well. Okay. The next game I will talk about is Azul Queen's Garden. So Azul Queen's Garden, I hate when this happens, when I leave something out. Just chuck it in here and I'll fix it later. Okay. So Azul Queen's Garden is the last Azul that I have played. I've not played the stained glass one. That's the only one I haven't played yet. So this one came out in 2021. And it's designed by Michael Kiesling, and the art is by Chris Quilliams. Well, that's an interesting name, Quilliam, instead of William, Quilliam. And it's by Plan B or Next Move Games, I guess. I thought it was Plan B. Oh. Anyway, Azul. So this is for 2 to 4 players. This variant I feel like is really difficult, but of course we did play wrong in the beginning. So in this one, you are going to have this board in the center, which will determine which tiles are like going to score each round. Each player is going to have like their own garden board, and you're going to be, and also their own like storage area where you will be collecting tiles and these additional tiles, not those ones, these ones, to like store on here so that you can put them out eventually. You know, it's been like a week or so since I've played this, so I might be a little bit rusty on the rules. So each person is going to start out with one of these, and of course, like in other games, if you surround one of these special icons, you will get a special thing, and in this case, the special thing you will get is one of these, which can be used as a wild. So you are going to have different tiles of different shapes, not different shapes, sorry, different colors with different shapes on them. So you're going to have, let me just pull them out. So let me find one. Sorry. So like here's an example. So here are 2 blue ones with different shapes on them. So one of them has like flowers on it and one of them has a bird on it. So in this game, it's interesting when you place tiles in this game. First of all, I feel like the cost is really expensive. I feel like buying tiles and then being able to place them, well, not buying them, because buying them it's free. Like the way that they are placed out, it's like just collecting them. You don't actually buy them, sorry. The cost of placing them, I feel like it's high, so which is indicated here. So every time you want to place a tile, it'll show you what the cost is of placing something with that symbol on it. And the ones over here are, you know, more costly because they will also score you more points in the end. But yeah, so basically you are collecting tiles, and then you can decide to collect if you have room on your storage board to collect, that is. So of course you can only collect up to 12 tiles in 2 of these things, and then you can place. And if you ended up getting a tile like this, you still have to follow the placement rules when it comes to placing this down, because it has a tile basically built into it. So basically you can, when you place, you can of course pay the cost, but you can have the same colors next to each other or the same patterns next to each other, but you cannot have 2 tiles of the same color that have 2 different patterns on them next to each other. And when you're paying, the cost you're paying is basically tiles or these. So you're going to be discarding certain tiles from your storage and these things in order to pay the cost. And when you discard, it cannot be exactly the same thing that you are discarding. So like, let's suppose let's suppose I wanted to place this down. I could discard this because it's of the same color, but if this one had the same exact pattern on it, I could not discard this to pay for this. So you can discard things that have either the same color or the same pattern, but not both. It cannot be identical to the thing that you are trying to place down. So it becomes really tricky as you are collecting stuff, trying to figure out what you want to pay for and place down for that round scoring. I mean, I thought it was really hard. The reason that we messed up is we accidentally increased the cost by 1, because when you are paying for something, you actually count the thing that you are trying to put down as 1. So basically, if I want to pay for this, the cost for this would be, since it is a bird, it would be 2. So this would count as 1. So basically I would need to discard one other thing. So I would discard one thing and I would place this. Whereas when we were playing, we would be like, oh, I want to place this, and then we would discard 2 additional things, 2 things in order to place this. So that was what we did wrong. So we basically made it harder for ourselves. And of course, you start out with some of these. You start out with 3 of these, which are wilds, which you can use to pay for things, of course. And then scoring, like I said, it's going to rotate each round, but in the first round, you're basically going to be scoring for these. And then in the second round, you'll be scoring for the next 3. So you'll see what's coming up. And then at the end of the game, you're going to have another special scoring, which I can't remember if I remember exactly how that one went. Sorry, I don't know if I had this upside down, but you're going to be scoring this at the end of the game. So I think in that one, you have to have a group of 3 or more in order to score this. So in addition to placing things down to do the end of round scoring, and again, there are going to be 4 rounds, then you have the end of game scoring. And in order to get the end of game scoring, you need to have at least 3 of each of those things that is together in a region to be scored. I thought it was really hard, but since we played it wrong and made it harder on ourselves, I would like to play it correctly again and see which Azul I like best. I am still super excited that the original Azul is coming out with a chocolate version, because that's the version I will then reach for all the time. Thematically, I just don't know if games like this really have a theme, like you're just taking stuff and putting it down and then scoring it. I don't think it's very thematic, to be honest, but it's a fun, thinky tile placement game. I don't think that they're meant to be super duper thematic, but oh well. But yeah, so maybe if this was made into a chocolate version, that would be cool too. But I'm really looking forward to the chocolate version of the original Azul, because I absolutely love chocolate. So that was the other game that I played. So yeah, so those were all the games I played. If you've played all of the Azuls, please tell me which one is your favorite. I think my favorite right now is still going to be Summer Pavilion. And then after Summer Pavilion, gosh, I don't know, honestly. I really don't know. It's really hard to decide. Yeah, I'm not sure. I do like the original Azul. I think once the original one comes out in the chocolate version, that might become my favorite, just because I just love chocolatey stuff. And I think seeing those tiles looking all chocolatey, it's just going to look amazing. So I think that will probably become my favorite Azul once that is released. All right, let's just move on. So I'm not backing anything at the moment, which I'm really happy about, because I really need to save money, as I've mentioned a billion times. So let's just go on to games. Oh, actually, let's go on to games that I'm culling. So for this portion, I'm going to just say that it's going to be pretty empty until I move, because I've decided that it will just be easier for me to cull games en masse when I finally move into my new place, and I'll have room in my new place. I'm going to have way more room than I do right now, so I'll actually be able to separate games from games that I absolutely love, to games that I like, to games that I don't like, and games that I definitely want to cull. So I'll definitely be able to organize a lot better and figure out what I want to do. So I think I'm just going to wait now until I move into my new place in November to really decide what I'm going to cull. So I think for the next few weeks, you won't see anything in the culling section, because I really need to start packing up everything into boxes. So let's go on to games that I received. So the first one I want to talk about is Life of the Amazonia. So I covered this publisher's previous game, Serengeti, which you can see right here. So it was actually called Wild Serengeti, not just Serengeti, but they're actually changing the name. So there was some copyright issue or trademark issue with them using Wild Serengeti. So it's actually going to be changed. They're changing the future copies, the editions of that game into Life of the Serengeti instead of Wild Serengeti. So this is Life of the Amazonia, which is coming to Kickstarter in October. This is a prototype copy, but for a prototype copy, of course, it is very nice. I haven't assembled everything, so there's a lot of unassembled pieces right now. But this one, of course, takes place in the Amazon rainforest. I just have to show you the Anna meeples because just like in the prototype of Wild Serengeti, these meeples are screen printed. Like, look at this otter. Oh, there's actually also one dolphin, and there's also going to be one iguana, and then there's like a bunch of different ones. So here is the dolphin. Here is a jaguar. A parrot, of course. Let me see. Oh, there's these cute little monkeys. What else? A toucan. Oh, I love toucans. What else do we have? Some other little tiny birds. Where is the iguana? There's only one iguana. If I can find it, I will show it to you. Oh, I believe this is it. Yeah. Very tiny. The iguana is super tiny. And what else is here? Oh, some other cool birds as well. Yeah. Here's another cool bird. Yeah. This I'm super excited about. So all the meeples in this prototype edition are screen printed. It comes with these tiles. So it's not going to play like Life of the Serengeti. It's going to be, from what I've read, a bag building game. And then it has a bunch of different tokens and then a bunch of little trees that I assembled. And then the cards, oh, of course, let me just show you the bag. So there's a bunch of tokens. It comes with 4 of these bags for players. And then the cards came sleeved, which was really nice. I'm like, wow, sleeved cards in a prototype. That is very nice. So let me just show you some of the cards. Yeah, really pretty artwork. Oh, I love it. Trying to see which animals I've already shown you. So there are some of these big cards, and then there are a bunch of little small cards as well. So yeah, so that is Life of the Amazonia. I haven't played it yet, but I'm really looking forward to playing it because I really enjoyed Serengeti, so I can't wait to play this. And of course, I'm a sucker for animal-themed games, so really looking forward to this. And I seriously love like all the animals. I love them so much. They're just so nice. So yeah, if you are a Ko-fi subscriber of mine, I think what I'm going to do is, I know I'm super behind on emailing about which games I'll be giving away in the future, but if I'm able to keep this one and you did not back Life of the Serengeti, I still have my prototype edition of that, which was really nice as well, like production quality. So maybe I can bundle these together in one of the giveaways that I plan on doing if I'm able to keep this one, because I'll be due a production copy of this. So that will be a good way for you to get a preview of this one and then also get the Serengeti if you don't have that one yet. So I will reach out to the publisher and see about that once I've made this video to see if that's something I can do. But yeah, that would be a nice bundle, I think, of a giveaway. So that is one game I received. So I will be covering this for the Kickstarter. Another few games I've received that I'll be covering Skal. Now this is going to be, from what I can remember, what I was told, like a Viking dice stacking game. So yeah, so it says it's a fun filler game. Yeah, a Viking stacking game. So I don't know much about it yet. Oh, actually, it's a box within a box. Okay. Oops. Ah, nice box. So yeah, this is designed by Andrew Prouse and is coming to Kickstarter in October. And it's for 1 to 6 players. So yeah, ooh, lots of nice big dice. Cups, ooh. And then cards. Ooh, this looks really cool. Odin, Loki, my favorite. I love Loki. Thor. What's this one? Freya. I can't read that backwards. Idun. And then Heimdall. Of course, I only really know like 3 of these names. maybe 4. Oh, that is so cool. Okay. And then there are cards in here. Let's see what the cards are. So yeah, it's supposed to be a really quick stacking game of some kind. So I think you're just going to like be rushing to maybe complete different designs of some kind. But you know, we'll see where the Viking theme, there's a fly here, comes into it. But I am excited to play this. It looks really cool. I do love a good Viking themed game. So, and I feel like I don't have too many of them actually. I feel like I only have a handful actually. So this will be cool to play. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to covering this one. So again, that will be coming to Kickstarter in October as well. So I shall put it back within its box, the box within the box. That is cool. So that was Skal. The next thing that arrived is this thing called Headspin, which I will be covering. So Headspin is a twistable, irresistible family game. So I'll be making a video for this. It comes with these twisty things, which look really cool. And then it comes with like a bunch of cards. So I don't know how it plays yet. And it also has like a disc at the bottom. I don't know what that is. But it comes with like a ton of cards. So I have to figure out how to play. But I'm excited to see this. I do love puzzles and stuff like that. So I would like to figure out what this is and play it. Huh, interesting. I think it's one of those things that's probably going to be like where you need to kind of be quick and differentiating like shapes, colors, and stuff like that. That's my guess, which I can kind of suck at sometimes, but I'm looking forward to trying this. That looks cool. Okay, the next thing I will show is, oh sorry, let me put this back. I had covered this game called Pirate Party, which was like a bunch of women pirates, so my production copy of that came. If I remember correctly, it was like a, was it deck building? No, it wasn't deck building. It was just a hand management kind of game, I think, if I remember correctly. Just, let me just read the description. Yeah, it was just like, you just needed to end up with the most points in the end. It was like a, set collection game. I think that's what it was. It was a set collection game. But yeah, it's just a cool little game with women pirates in it. So that arrived. So that was on Kickstarter, so that's called Women of the High Sea Pirate Party. So let's just go on to questions and commentary. So before I begin, I just want to give a shout out to Michael L. You know who you are. So every time I ask questions, he always sends me these emails, which are so thorough, giving me so much information, which I just am so appreciative of. But I just feel terrible because I haven't had a chance to respond. But thank you so much for all of your help. Like, you always send me these incredible emails that are just so helpful, and I really do appreciate them, and I promise I'll try to get back to you. I'm just really terrible at responding to emails, but you take the time to send them to me, so I really appreciate it. So thank you, Michael. So last weekend I went on a law school reunion, and you guys gave a lot of good suggestions about games to, you know, bring to something like that where you are meeting up with non-gamers that might, you know, entice them to play. Unfortunately, we were just super busy the whole day. We didn't play anything, even though I took So Clover, but it was still a lot of fun to be there and see my law school friends after 4 years. It'd been 4 years since I saw a couple of them. A few of them I'd seen more recently, but yeah, it was a lot of fun, but we didn't end up playing anything in the end. But it's always good to get suggestions anyway, and I really appreciated your guys' suggestions. So one of the questions I received for this week is, what excites me the most about this hobby? Honestly, it's really hard to say. There's just so many things that I love about it, but just playing games, just having a challenge and doing something well, so, you know, with people whose company you enjoy, and just joking around with them, because inevitably whenever I play a board game, we end up joking around about stuff, and you know, it's just a really fun time. It's not like playing a game. So even though I could get the same kind of, maybe not the entirely the same kind of challenge, because I really enjoy the tactile element of board games, the nature of them, but you know, you could get a mental challenge as well from playing a video game probably, or a computer game, but it's not the same. You're not sitting around with a group of people whose company you enjoy and getting to know them while playing a game. It's really, you know, the people really make it enjoyable. Playing games with people is really one of the main reasons that I play games. And then of course the amazing components and just being immersed into the world of a board game. That's why, you know, having artwork and amazing components I think really helps. And I know it can raise the cost of certain board board games, but I think it helps you to immerse you more in the theme of the game, which I really like. And of course, I'm one of those people who is a bit crazy, and if I haven't played a board game in a while, I'll just pull one off of my shelf and just start admiring all the components and just look at them. So obviously I'm in love with the actual physical part of the board games as well. But yeah, there's a lot of things about the hobby that really excite me, and I just that I love. And I love going to conventions and meeting people at conventions and seeing what's new, the excitement of everyone being there for the same thing. I just really, really love that too. Someone had mentioned a couple of times that I could just delete my Twitter account. That's true, I could just delete it, but the reason I haven't done that yet is because there are some people who I interact with, who I like, who are only on Twitter, and I don't have a means of communicating with them otherwise. We're not friends on Facebook. They don't really watch my content on YouTube, so they don't comment on my videos on YouTube. They're not on Instagram. So there's a handful of people who I only know through Twitter in the board gaming community. And it's honestly because of them that I'm still on Twitter. Yes, I end up being exposed to a lot of stuff I don't like, and a lot of crap. Like just more recently, Eric Lang had posted something on Twitter which I thought was just again really stupid. I can see the point he was making. So he was making a point about how so he was saying non-men, so people who are women or people who identify as non-binary, are not as visible in the community or not given as many opportunities in the community or whatever as men. But instead of saying women and non-binary people, he lumped them all together as non-men, which I thought was just stupid. I'm like, if you want to be inclusive, first of all, women is not a taboo word. Say women. Like, there are plenty of us who, are proud to be women. And if you're going to say trans women are women, then why are you shying away from the word women now? Say the word women. So I had posted on my own profile saying that women is not a taboo word and you should not be afraid to say it. And if you want to be inclusive, you could have said women and non-binary people instead of lumping us all together as non-men, which means that you are defining who we are on the basis of us not being men, which I think is just misogynistic anyway. So if you're trying to eliminate misogyny from this hobby, which he claims he is, then don't use the word non-men to describe women and non-binary people. So I had made a thread about that, and then of course someone who loves to come to my profile and find anything she can to shit on subtweeted about me. She later deleted that subtweet, but I already got the screenshot because, as people know, I save all of the screenshots of anyone who talks trash about me, because if I ever do decide to bring a lawsuit against these people, it'll be good to have all of that in one place. But like, this person just seems to go through my tweets and find anything she can to shit on, and then she even goes through my likes. So I had liked a tweet by someone who said that despite J.K. Rowling's views, J.K. Rowling has been treated in a very poor manner by other people. And I agree. I mean, it doesn't matter if you like or dislike her views, you agree or disagree with her views. No one should be treated in the way she has been treated, like being, having her home address put out, having people threaten to come to her home and make her feel unsafe. Like, if you feel like J.K. Rowling is a TERF, then fine, but that doesn't mean that she deserves that kind of treatment. There are better ways to engage or disengage with people whose views you do not like, and threatening someone is not a way to, deal with someone whose opinions you don't like. So, I had liked that tweet, but of course that person took it to mean that I agree with all of J.K. Rowling's views and that I am a TERF. So they of course created tweeted something out about that, and I'm like, God, these people are just so obsessive that they will go through even every tweet that you've liked to try to make a point about you and say shit about you on Twitter. So yeah, Twitter is a very toxic place. It's filled with people who are obsessed with people they don't like, and instead of just focusing on making their own lives better, they will just find stuff to shit tweet about and subtweet about, like, constantly. It is insane. But again, I'm still on Twitter for the few people who, I really do like on Twitter, and it's the only place where I get to communicate with those few people. But I will try to be, I'll try harder to, not look at all the garbage on Twitter and stuff like that. And I feel like I've been doing better. I feel like, I haven't been giving into these bullies and the harassment. Like before when this person, whenever she would subtweet about me, I'd always then, subtweet about her and be like, dude, like, get a life. What are you doing? But I've stopped responding to them on Twitter because really, I just think they're all within their own little echo chamber in it anyway. So who really cares what they're saying at the end of the day? The next thing I want to talk about is procrastination, because I am the worst when it comes to, doing stuff that I say I'm going to do. So I really apologize that I have not yet made a video of all my photos from Africa and videos. I truly am the worst, I know. Procrastination has been something that I have been dealing with all of my life. Not that that is, a good excuse or anything, but it really is a huge problem. Like starting in college, really, I would wait until the night before to write a paper that, the night before it was due. And I started doing that in college. And I think the reason I continued to do it was because, and I'm not trying to, humble brag, but I would still get A's on these papers. So I would be absolutely miserable. I would be up until like 5 a.m, starting and finishing a paper that is due the next morning, so the same morning technically. So I would be like up until 5 a.m. writing a paper, just starting my research, doing everything in one night, being absolutely miserable. And I was like that through grad school and then law school as well. So I have 2 graduate degrees. So I had started a PhD in Middle Eastern Studies, and I was the same way in there. And I had like a 3.99 GPA in that grad school. So, I was kind of rewarded for my terrible study habits and, academic habits. I love academia, but there was just a part of me that just could not bring myself to start a paper until the night before it was due. And I did the same thing in law school. And again, I feel like I was rewarded for my bad behavior because I would still get A's on these papers. So yeah, I am a terrible procrastinator. I kind of do the same thing now, where I wait until the last possible moment to do something where I feel like, oh, this is the firm deadline, then I'm going to wait until the day before, until I do it. It's a terrible thing, I know, and I don't know why I do it, but unfortunately I do. So I really want to stop doing that. I'm trying, it's just terrible. I just don't even know how to stop procrastinating. If you have any methods that you have used to stop procrastinating, I would really appreciate them, because honestly, I do it, but it's not like I enjoy it. It's not like I enjoy procrastinating. And I get this feeling like in the pit of my stomach, like when I have like a, something I need to do and I actually sit down to do it, then I kind of have this like awful feeling in the pit of my stomach, like, oh, okay, now's the time. I actually got to do this. And then it's just weird. I can't explain it, but eventually things get done though. So eventually everything that I need to do gets done. And I've never been like late on paying a bill of any kind or anything like that, I guess maybe that's why I still continue to procrastinate, because eventually everything gets done on time the way it's supposed to, even if it made me really utterly miserable. So waiting so long to do it. But I really sincerely apologize for procrastinating on the photos from Africa and stuff like that. I think what I'm going to try to do is start packing up my apartment, and the more I clear up some of my space around here, because it's very cluttered, then maybe I'll feel more inclined to do other tasks, because the state of my apartment just, I think, prevents me from wanting to complete certain tasks, because I just look around and I'm like, this is just a disaster. I should not be living like this. Like, no one should be living like this. It's a really big mess. There's just board games everywhere. Like, everywhere there are board games. But luckily I am moving into a place that is big enough that I will be able to have a studio, so one room dedicated to just playing games and shooting videos. One room will be able to be a library where I'm going to store the vast majority of my board games and books. So one room is going to be turned into a library, and then in addition to that, I'll have my desk there, so I'm also going to make it like an office space. And then I'll have a dining room, so I'll have separate places for storing my games, for eating, for working, and for shooting videos and playing games, which right now I do everything at the same table. So it is going to be a huge upgrade starting in November once I move. So I do think that that will make a huge difference in my life, in me, getting more videos shot that I want to shoot, me completing more tasks on a timely manner, me staying up to date on my Ko-fi newsletters that I promised I would do every month, and which I've been terrible about. But in my poor, my sad defense, I will say that, June and July were just terribly busy because I was traveling to UKGE and then Africa, so that's why June and July didn't happen. And I know August is almost over, so I'm going to try to get out a newsletter before the month ends. So yeah, so I know I've been terrible about that as well. Yeah, I've just been really, really terrible about a lot of things, but I'm so excited because, you know, in my new place, I'm going to have designated areas for everything. So I hope to, you know, dedicate an area to just my play testing where I can keep out my board games that I'm working on and work on those on a regular basis. It will be a huge upgrade when I don't have to clear off a whole table to do something. So I really do think that, you know, being more organized and having a better space will lead to me being more productive in my own personal life as well. So yeah, I do think that that's going to happen because all my life I've been very organized. So seeing things like this just makes me feel very uneasy. It kind of makes me feel a little bit panicked. Like I just don't like it. It's just, you know, living in this state is just not good for me. It just doesn't work. So I'm really looking forward to moving, and I think that that will, you know, help things a lot. So sorry for all the babbling, but I want to leave you guys with a question. So we are approaching Halloween, which is my favorite holiday, and I really want to make a, you know, games to play around Halloween video this year because I say I'm going to do that every year, and I love Halloween. It's my favorite holiday. And just yesterday, I went to the gym for the first time in a super long time, and then my gym is right next to Home Goods, and it's starting this time of year where they start stocking all of their Halloween stuff. So I bought a couple of Halloween things, even though I'm supposed to be packing and not buying more stuff. So yeah, so what is your favorite game to play around Halloween? I was really hoping I would have Don't Go In There in time to play. A lot of people have received their copies that they backed of that game already. Mine was stuck in limbo forever. You know, it was shipped out in June, and the last July, and the last update was August 1st, and then after August 1st, absolutely nothing. So I reached out to the publisher yet again and said, listen, I really think my game is lost. So finally they've shipped me out another copy, and I know several other people have been in the same situation as me where their games have just been lost and just stuck in some kind of weird limbo since like August 1st or August 2nd. So I hope I'll receive that game soon now that they've said that they've shipped me out another copy, but I think that that looks like it would be a good game to play around Halloween as well. But I absolutely love Halloween, so I'm really looking forward to playing like monster themed games and like different Halloween themed games. So I want to know, what are your favorite Halloween themed games? And yeah, let me know. And then hopefully I'll have a list of mine in a video that you can watch and we can compare. So yeah, I feel like I babbled a lot in this video and that I was not very eloquent in explaining a lot of the games that I explained today, so I don't know why that is, but hopefully I'll be better next week. So anyway, until next week, bye.